Prager University is an interesting... As an academic, Christy, how would you rate this fine centre of learning?
Oh, it is the opposite of learning. It's indoctrination based on faith and hate.
Yes. Yes. Now, this video, I mean, I've done a series called Prager FU, where I go through their nonsense. Christy's covered Prager U many times on her weekend shows, and is very good. Goes into much more depth than I, but with fewer cock jokes, so, swings and roundabouts,
Exactly.
Now, this video, I mean, Christy, I presume you haven't seen this video?
No, I've not.
Okay.
Because I got physically nauseous when I read the tweet contents.
Yeah. You're going to think, I think, that this is like a satire. This is something that someone put together to make them look racist.
They are perfectly capable of making
But
themselves racist as fuck.
This is legit their verified account on Twitter. This is their video. They put this out, okay?
Yep.
But I assure you this is true. The quote...
Standing for dead racist traitors.
Yeah, but in the most ridiculous way. Trust me, this is, I think, will blow your mind. Statues of Robert E. Lee are being removed across America, this time at the US Capitol. That's true, we covered that in the last show. Bum-ba-dum-bum-bum. Another bites of dust. Here's why Lee's statue should remain.
No. Just no.
So, there are several arguments you think you're going to hear in this video.
Okay. Let's do a hypothetical. You've seen it, right?
I have seen this, yes.
All right, let me see if I can predict. Let me try to think like a hateful, narrow-minded, agenda-driven conservative out to maintain whites' power over every other group in America. It's our history, and you can't deny our history. Let's see what else. That's it. That's all I got.
Well, I mean, it does involve history. Okay. But I mean, I can't really do better than letting them explain. They take things that are mostly facts, I think, mostly.
Okay, oh, yes, yeah.
Are interesting as defences.
Okay, all right. Let us break this down.
By the way, also, they've got millions and millions of AstroTurf dollars, and yet they're still using license-free music from YouTube.
Nice.
Trust me, because as a poor motherfucker who makes YouTube videos, I recognise this music. I know what this is.
Yeah.
It's free music that they're using, and mixing terribly. The audio on this is dog shit.
Standing for a Racist Traitor by PragerU.
Yeah.
Who was Robert E. Lee?
A piece of shit. A piece of shit traitor.
Yeah.
What is this shit music? This is annoying.
Great historical figures like Robert E. Lee are being torn down across America.
I'm sorry. Pause. Great? Fucking great? No. He was horrific. He helped lead the nation. He helped kill other Americans. He was in charge of organizing the killing of other Americans because of racism and wanting to preserve slavery over, human beings and violating their rights.
Yeah, the morality is obviously the slavery thing, but just even if you want to look at it from a patriotic white people thing, he was the driving force behind the most murderous period in American history. Literally hundreds of thousands. The most destructive war, in terms of lives, that America has ever known.
Yeah, morally he's wrong in terms of his oaths to the Constitution, and that the military also was wrong. Everything about him is wrong. If you love the American Constitution and the Union, and everything, if that is what, with all its flaws, you still think, okay, we can work with this and make it better. There's a good foundation to tweak from. He wasn't great. He was the antithesis of all those things.
Indeed. And to the person who said there's a statue of Robert E. Lee at the Capitol, past tense. Yeah. Pelosi got it taken down last week. Yes, wasn't Robert E. Lee opposed to statues of people like Robert E. Lee? He was. He said the Confederate States should not be commemorized. I think he realised in his dying hours that was probably a mistake. Shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Don't make me a hero. I'm a piece of shit.
Bit late now, but I mean, at least, better late than never, I suppose. But anyway.
Definitely better late than pregnant if you don't want to be.
True, but coat hanger.
Oh, God.
It's all good. What?
Dark. Fucking so dark. Anyway, hit play.
To remind us why his statue should remain.
So here are some
Robert E.
facts that show why it should remain, okay? I'm going to turn this up to max because it's a little bit low.
Okay.
So these are some facts about Robert E. Lee that show why his statue should remain.
In the U.S. Capitol.
Not just in the
Or
U.S. Capitol,
anywhere.
across America. Look, they're being
Yes.
removed across America. Here's
right.
why they should stay. Okay. So, I mean, you're expecting, like you say, you're expecting some stuff about, like, heritage, not hate or something. Prager, you went a different road with it.
Or even just like this is part of our history. Like
Yeah.
this, you can't erase the Civil War. Like,
Yeah.
but that's a bullshit argument. Anyway, yeah.
Statue should remain. Robert E. Lee was connected to George Washington through his father. Of course, Harry
So
Lee.
fucking what?
Yeah.
Honestly, so we're a lot of motherfuckers.
Yeah.
I don't see a bunch of statues just because like people were genetically related to a guy who was our first president.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Dave Jones is also third cousin, twice removed, friend, dog walker to Thomas Jefferson. You should give him a statue.
Yeah. Statistically, it's inevitable that I have taken in oxygen atoms that were breathed in and out by George Washington. Do I get a statue?
Well, I like the statistical thing about Charlemagne, the Holy Roman Emperor guy. That if your family has remained in Europe since the days of Charlemagne, you're almost certainly in some way related to him.
No, let's give a statue to fucking everybody then.
Yeah, exactly. So if you wanted to, you could give a statue to everyone in Europe, basically, except the modern brown people who've come in. That doesn't apply to them because geographically they weren't here at the time. But statistically, the point remains, and it's obviously therefore fucking irrelevant.
Well, it's kind of like, hey, George Washington had slaves. Lee had, defended slavery.
And had slaves.
Did he?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. That's why I didn't want to say.
No. Well, this is the thing. They'll often say, "Did you know Abraham Lincoln had slaves, but Lee didn't have slaves?" No, they both had slaves. But technically, they both had slaves because at the time, their wives' property transferred over to them when they were married,
marriage.
and
Okay,
their
yeah.
wives' families had slaves. Therefore, they got slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them particularly wanted slaves, especially. But they both owned slaves. But it's interesting that the Confederate defender will say Lincoln had slaves and then deny that Lee had
did.
slaves, even though they had slaves for exactly the same reason.
Yeah. Well, history and facts, not their strong suit.
No. Anyway, but in terms of historical connection, it gets even more tenuous in a second.
Washington's cavalry commander, and his wife, Martha Washington's great-granddaughter.
Again, who gives a
Lee's
fuck?
home at Arlington House was just 10 miles from Washington's Mount Vernon.
He had a house that was close to a house that Washington lived in.
A century later.
Yeah, who cares? Who gives it the slightest shit?
Is this their best defense? Really? This is their opening.
Ironically,
volley?
yes. This is the best this video gets. This is the least offensive this video gets. At least this bit of the video only insults your intelligence, not racial groupings.
Wait. Does it get down to Lee and Washington both wore trousers? They both wore shoes.
Inhaled oxygen and exhaled carbon dioxide.
They both did a poo.
They were both known to have read newspapers. Yeah. Anyway, but then it gets. Then you start to see a little bit of the nonsense creeping in a second.
Today, it is the site of Arlington National Cemetery.
That's true. The Arlington National Cemetery is the former home and estate of Robert E. Lee. They don't explain why that transfer took place, though, do they?
Oh, do you know?
I do know, yes.
Would you like to tell us? Enlighten us, Kevin.
During the American Civil War, Arlington National Cemetery is relatively close to Washington, D.C., and so Union forces took it over relatively early in the war and kept control of it for the entirety of it. The quartermaster of the United States of America, whose name escapes me briefly, was given the job of burying the hundreds of thousands of corpses from the Civil War. They didn't have space for it, so they decided to create a new place. They thought, well, we've taken ownership of this place. We're not giving it back to the prick.
They just seized his property?
Yeah, this is contraband. This is contraband of war. So
government seized property.
Decided to take it very personally because the quartermaster's son had just been killed in a battle against Lee's forces. So he decided to specifically say, I want to bury people at this place so that this house can never be used by these people ever again. And literally, as he said in the great documentary, the Civil War one,
Ken Burns.
Ken Burns, yes, that the quartermaster's son was buried in Mrs. Lee's rose garden.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But
Literally,
broke that shit up.
to take his son's corpse to the steps of the man who had killed him.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's actually serious, very powerful.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful, isn't it? So yeah, that's why. But they don't explain that. They just say, well, clearly it's Arlington National Cemetery, so he must be a good guy. No, they chose it specifically because he wasn't a good guy.
Yep,
You shouldn't.
lying again.
They literally, it's the opposite. You're making the opposite argument of what you think you are, Prager.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. Anyway, but like I say, this is the least offensive bit of the video.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right. Not even a minute in.
After 30 years of military service, Lee led U.S. Marines to crush the attempted slave rebellion by radical abolitionist John Brown.
I'm sorry. What?
John Brown's the bad guy.
No. John, we need. Who was it was saying we need more white people like John Brown?
Yeah.
I think it was a comedian I saw, a black comedian, and he's like, white people are like, oh, people need to do more to stop racism. He's like, we need some John Brown white people, and he's like, gets really quiet when I say that.
Yeah.
Right. You had someone trying to liberate people and restore their rights.
Yep.
And you're casting him as the bad guy, and the person who is crushing down human rights and basic civil rights is the hero. You guys are fucking racist pieces of shit over at Prager.
Yeah. Also, radical abolitionist? I thought we'd all agreed that the abolitionist thing was good. I thought we'd all gone,
yes.
Yeah,
I thought the
enough.
Republicans were proud of that.
Fair enough.
Remember?
They were probably on the right side on that one.
I mean, it's funny how when abolition was argued by Republicans because they were war profiteers and were happy to sell arms to both sides in the North, then the Republicans are, really good for being abolitionists. But you get someone who actually tries to put it into practice by freeing people, and suddenly he's a radical.
Indeed. So John Brown's the bad guy, even though in reality John Brown is an American hero and should be held up as such.
Yeah, he literally died for what he believed in, which was helping to free other people.
Now, you can argue about tactics. He probably wasn't a tactical genius if you look at the raid on Harper's Ferry. Not really the point, though. And what I will say, in slight scintilla of defence for Robert E. Lee, is that at the time, he was an army commander. He was given orders to go into Harper's Ferry and quell an uprising. And did so.
So he's following orders.
Following orders. Now that's not a defence. That's not a defence in the sense of morality. I'm just saying, as a practical, on the ground thing, he was just essentially doing his job. Now that doesn't make him a hero, not at all. He's clearly killing good people trying to do a good thing, albeit in a silly way.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that from a defence in that perspective, and that's certainly not a reason you should ever give someone a fucking statue. Okay, I'm just saying
Definitely
the idea.
not.
It's not. It's more complex than maybe some people might want to make it out. But John Brown was a fucking hero. Okay. Mm-hmm. The idea that he's the bad guy and Lee is the good guy is fucking absurd.
It just shows the white supremacy at the heart of this.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
In October 1859, 21 co-conspirators had seized a federal armory, and all of them were killed or captured, including John Brown, who was tried and
Doing
hanged
what?
for treason.
Doing what?
Interestingly, they don't seem to care that Lee's forces captured several federal armories and raided them before war had ever been declared by the North.
Double standards for the white guy they like.
Interesting. Also, they don't seem to mind that he was tried and hanged for treason against a state. Not against the United States. Against the state of Virginia.
How do you have fucking treason against a state? What kind of bullshit is that?
You don't. It was a kangaroo court. He was literally, there's a famous painting of it, he was literally so ill, he was in a bed in the courtroom. So not fit to stand trial, clearly. And you can't do it by absentia because video link isn't a thing back in 1860.
Yeah.
Or 1859 or whatever it was. So he clearly wasn't fit to stand trial, and clearly they had no standing to bring the case. It's absolutely ridiculous. They still hung him anyway. But this is the party of the Constitution, apparently.
For white guys.
Yeah.
That are rich.
Yeah. Anyway, so John Brown's the bad guy. Why didn't they write a song called Robert Lee's Body, I wonder? Robert Lee's body lies mouldering in the grave. Lol. Mouldering in the grave. Lol. Mouldering in the grave. Sorry. Anyway.
Lee deemed slavery a moral and political evil in any country, but considered it a greater evil to the white man than to the black race, since blacks are immeasurably better off here than in Africa.
Oh, fuck you and your white savior. I need to enslave you, and take your labor, your children, and your entire lives because otherwise you'd be worse off. Justification that racists used. Fuck you.
Look at that. That's a PragerU video, and that still is available. Since blacks are immeasurably better off here than in Africa. Yeah. Few points. Firstly, he wasn't really against slavery. He made a kind of moralistic argument, but like you say, was like, yeah, but we need to keep it because the blacks probably need to learn how to be civilised. That's quite racist. Maybe not give a statue to him. Also, it was known that on his estate, the slaves that were there were punished very, very harshly. One particular account gives that after whipping, they would put salted brine in the wounds as an extra punishment at that estate. Now, he didn't personally engage in that, but he knew it was going on and he didn't stop it. Let's not pretend he was like being paternalistic towards the black folk of America. He wasn't.
Absolutely not. And the idea that being enslaved to make other people money is better off than being free, even if you're struggling, is, well, tell that to the founding fucking fathers.
Yeah, you don't get to cry about liberty and freedom against the tyranny of the federal government whilst owning humans.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah, anyway. And also, the major overarching fact is he took up arms to defend that institution.
Yes, which is why he was given statues, and he shouldn't have been, and that's why we're taking them down, because he's a traitor and a slaver and a morally reprehensible human being.
Well, I've made
doing what he did.
Made this point before. The greatest symbol of how Reconstruction failed is that those statues were ever allowed to be erected. I told you, didn't I, about the Andersonville prison one? Just an appalling...
I don't know.
I think I did.
Go ahead.
Andersonville prison was technically, I believe, at the time, the 6th largest town in the South. It was a prisoner of war camp, Northern soldiers. There was a backlog based on the fact that they wouldn't give black POWs the same rights as white POWs.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Because they didn't consider what black people to be people.
Right.
And so the prisoner exchange program was stopped. Because if you're not going to give our black POWs the same thing, then fuck you. You don't get your prisoners back, dickheads. Anyway. So Andersonville prison becomes backlogged. This is in the South. This is in Georgia, I believe. And it's now... the town's called something else now because they didn't want Andersonville as a name anymore because it got... and quite rightly, the... a hideous reputation. Anyway, thousands, tens of thousands of men died at this place. They were murdered, in essence.
Yeah.
Henry Wirtz, the commandant, was eventually killed, and rightly so, for his crimes. They had them living in holes in the ground, literally holes in the ground. They weren't huts or anything, just holes in the ground covered by blankets. They had a thing called Sweetwater Creek, which was a small, not very flowing river, or stream at the bottom of the thing, which they had to piss, shit, bathe, and drink from.
Oh, God.
So disease was
Cholera,
rampant. Yeah, it was absolutely appalling. The prisoners who were eventually saved from there, literally the photographs of them, it's reminiscent of the Holocaust that would take place in Europe a century later. Literally skeletal figures,
starving,
barely alive. And many of them wouldn't survive. Anyway, the commandant, Henry Wirtz, has a statue in that town. Has a monument in that town today.
For killing Americans.
Today. Yeah. The fact that those statues are ever allowed is just... they're traitors. You're putting up statues to traitors who killed Americans.
Don't tell me that there isn't institutional racism in America.
Why not put an Osama bin Laden statue at Ground Zero? Why not? He killed fewer people than Henry Wirtz fucking did.
Spicy take.
Spicy take, but no, show me the lie.
No, it makes the point. Yeah, it shows the analogous thinking here.
Yeah.
Opposing secession, Lee foresaw no greater calamity for the country than a dissolution of the Union. But when Virginia seceded in a close vote, Lee resigned his commission. Despite offers to command Union forces, Lee opted to organize the defense of his native state.
So he's a traitor.
So he's a traitor, yeah. So
He doesn't deserve a statue for
he'd
that.
taken an oath to the United States,
Yes.
could have taken, was literally offered
Yes.
the command of the United States military to put down this traitorous pro-slavery rebellion, but decided to forego that, take up arms against his oath, his previous oath, and kill Americans. Statue?
Nope. No. All this is just convincing me more that there should be no Lee statues anywhere in America.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is, like I say, it's almost like this is satire. Like if I was to put a video together to make PragerU look shit,
You
it
couldn't
would
do a
basically
better
be
job.
this. Yeah.
After 4 years as Confederate commander, Lee became an icon of reconciliation upon his surrender. As
Not really. Not really. Like reconciliation between white folk. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what that means. Like,
Well,
when he
I
just
mean,
says
there's no
that,
doubt
that just
that-
is an assertion.
He said that he did say to his troops in his final speech outside Appomattox about these are your countrymen or something, and he was literally trying to say, okay, we lost, you're Americans again. Never mind. But I mean, I don't really care at that point. Like
Yeah,
he's
you
surrendered.
don't get a statue for that.
He does. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've already surrendered. I don't really
Yeah.
care what you say beyond that.
Traitor.
It's not your choice whether you're American anymore. We've literally at gunpoint forced you to be so.
Yeah, like you
That's
lost.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't. You don't get a statue for being a traitor and then going, okay, well, stop now. Like you were still a traitor. It doesn't erase what he did.
Yeah.
president of Virginia's Washington College, he favored education for freed slaves, but opposed their right to vote.
The right to vote. Yeah. Also allowed the KKK to operate freely in the grounds.
Let that part out.
Racism was rampant at Washington College when he was there.
How come they didn't include that?
It's a shame, isn't it? It's a shame that they didn't put in like any facts. Also,
Yeah.
but oppose their right to vote.
Exactly.
What? So that's a reason he should be given a statue.
Is
'Cause remember,
that what they're arguing? Yes.
the start of this was these are things that are true about Lee that means he should have a statue.
Yeah. He opposed the right of black people to vote. Give him a statue!
Especially at the
Friggin'
US
year
Capitol,
2020.
which is where elected representatives go and, fulfill their duties. Why would you give a statue to a guy who opposed millions of Americans' right to vote?
Yeah.
Like, that's the worst place you could put a statue.
Yes.
Look, at most you might give him a plaque at Gettysburg, because he was involved. That's about it, though. That's a historical thing.
Yeah, it's a historical marker. It's not
Yeah.
what's the
give
word
him
I'm looking
a
for? Sort of like
statue of-
celebration.
Yeah, a statue of the man at the Capitol, which is where the votes ultimately translate into actual legislation eventually. Mm-hmm. Why would you give him that? You might as well give, I don't know, an actual. I mean, he is a slave owner, but you might as well give slavery itself its own fucking statue or something. Like it's
like
nonsense.
find someone who opposed women's suffrage and go, hey,
Yeah.
let's give them a statue for opposing half the population not having any say in the government that they pay taxes to.
Yeah. Here's a suffragette getting force-fed in a prison. Funny.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Lee died from a stroke in 1870 and is buried
So?
beneath Lee Chapel in what's now Washington and Lee University. His legendary warhorse Traveler rests in a plot nearby.
I think that they just kind of assume people who watch these videos don't think critically. They just sort of like absorb like marshmallows. I don't know. Like marshmallows don't really absorb things. But I'm just like, they're just sort of like soft and pliant. I'm thinking,
Sponge.
what's that? Gormless.
Gormless. Absolutely
Gormless viewers.
gormless, yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, I've completely forgotten that a minute ago or less than 2 minutes ago, you told me these were reasons why his statue should
Yeah. Statue should remain. His horse is buried. Okay.
Really?
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't mind the horse. It was clearly a very good horse. The horse is morally completely neutral in the matter.
Yeah, it had no say.
No.
It had no agency.
It's
It
a
just
very,
did
very
the horse
findable
thing.
horse. But, I mean, give the horse a statue, I suppose. I don't really care. It's nice. That's just a nice statue of a horse. It's the
Yeah.
guy on top of the horse I have an issue with. Really. Yeah. What we need is more statues of horses, fewer statues of traitors.
Apparently, if you're buried near your horse, you deserve a statue, according to this logic.
That's true. Yeah. So I need to get buried near like a racetrack or something. I might get a statue. And And that's it. Yeah, that's it. Those are the reasons. So he came out of
Wow. None.
He came out of his dad's balls. Is a reason. Yeah. And his dad's balls happened to be near the balls of Washington at one point. Okay.
They descended from the balls of Washington.
His wife's house, and it was his wife's house initially, which is why he got the slaves and all that. His wife's house was near a house that Washington once lived in. Solid reasoning.
I'm convinced.
He put down a righteous rebellion by an American hero.
Mm-hmm.
He was racist in not wanting black people to vote.
Oh, yes. He also thought slavery was better than freedom.
Slavery was better than freedom. He took up arms against the United States and murdered its citizens.
Mm-hmm. Let racism run rampant at the campus he oversaw.
Yep. And buried near his horse.
Yep.
Give him a statue. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck is this video?
This is their best effort.
It's ridiculous. Wow. Every part of this is bullshit. What the fuck?
If someone handed this in to me as an essay, I could only assume they were being ironic.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Like I say, this seems like satire. Like someone saying this is how stupid fucking Prager are, and it's on their fucking. They put it out. It's their Twitter account.
Fuck.
Absolutely mental. But that's good stuff.
That was fun.
That was fun. That was very fun. Lincoln fired McClellan twice. He did. I don't know what that relevance that is particularly, but he did. Yes.
Maybe he deserves 2 statues then.
Well, maybe. But
compared to Lee.
Yeah. But if losing a general election gets you a statue, then so does Trump get one, I suppose. Because he lost to
Joe
Lincoln.
Biden? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I still thought you were talking about
sorry, no, I'm US. I'm still on the US Civil War. Yeah, he was the commander in chief who did basically nothing. He would just sit still and not do anything. Well, at the Battle of Antietam, to be fair, but still. Anyway, and was fired twice and eventually ran against him in 1864 and lost. I think he only won New Jersey or some dumb shit. It was like a blowout, crazy blowout. Anyway, never mind. Doesn't matter. Right. So, any more on Prager?
Oh no, please, let's move on. I mean, I'm that was fun to laugh at. It was painful though to listen to that tortured list of random historical facts that don't justify his statue remaining whatsoever. They didn't even make a closing argument.
No,
they didn't even say.
No, the closing argument was he was buried near his horse. That was the final line. That's it, yeah.
You're really ending on a strong, really leaving a point your audience is going to take away.
Absolutely, exactly, yeah. End on something that you want to reverberate in your listener's mind. His horse was buried near him. Okay, I mean, he liked the horse. He wanted the horse buried on his grounds. Okay, cool. I don't give a fuck. So what the
literally irrelevant to him having a statue in the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah.